I opened my phone to a voicemail that felt like a trapdoor opening beneath my life. It was 2 days before my wedding. I was sitting in the back seat of a town car, half listening to my best man argue with the florist on speakerphone, when I noticed the missed call from a blocked number. One voicemail. 17 seconds. And when I hit play, I heard the kind of voice you never forget, calm, clipped, and surgical. "If you want the truth about Vanessa," it said, "check the paternity records in Miami. Your mother-in-law helped cover it up." Then it ended. No name. No follow-up. Just that. And in that moment, all the noise of wedding prep, the seating chart chaos, the cake delivery delay, the "should we go with gold-rimmed or matte black cutlery" debate, dropped away like scaffolding. I was left sitting in silence, phone still in my hand, heart pounding like it was trying to outrun the message it just heard. See, here's the thing, I thought I knew secrets. Thought I'd already made it through the hard part. Her name is Vanessa. We met in our early 30s, after the kind of breakups that make you swear off dating apps and emotional investment. She was light where I was solid. The kind of woman who made brunch feel like a religion. I was a systems engineer, steady, methodical. I never lost my keys. She never set an alarm. We shouldn't have worked, but somehow, we did. Or so I thought. Now, it wasn't just that she had lied. That I could have forgiven, maybe. But the voicemail, the content of it, cut deeper than infidelity. It hinted at a history I never knew existed. A child? A cover-up? And Linda, her mother, somehow tangled in it. That woman had spent the last year scrutinizing every one of my choices, from the tux I picked to the way I folded napkins at our tasting. Her approval had always felt conditional. But now I was supposed to believe she'd helped bury something in paternity records. I wanted to think it was a prank. Someone with the wrong number. Some petty ex-friend causing trouble. But my gut knew better. Because there'd been signs. Subtle ones. The way Vanessa deflected whenever I asked about her college years. How she tensed when I mentioned kids. The time I joked about baby names and she went quiet for the rest of the night. And then there was that trip to Miami last year. Supposedly for a conference. Just her and her mom. I'd asked if I could come, make a weekend of it, and she laughed, said it was girl time. Something about that trip had felt off. She'd come back different. Not colder, just careful. Like someone who was memorizing a script. And now this voicemail was pulling at a thread I hadn't even realized was there. When I got home, I sat in the dark for almost an hour. Didn't turn on the lights. Just let the weight of the message settle in. I didn't call Vanessa. Didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I poured a drink, opened my laptop, and started looking. Miami. Paternity. Public records. Every search term felt like a betrayal, not of her, but of the man I thought I was, trusting, steady, naive. I wasn't a hacker. But I knew my way around data. And by midnight, I called in a favor, an old colleague from a data privacy project who now worked deep in Florida's court IT systems. I told him what I was looking for. He didn't ask questions. Just warned me it was sealed for a reason. Then he sent over a temporary login, masked IP, short window. Risky, but real. Through that back door, I found a hidden court portal. Most cases were routine. A few family disputes. But one docket, buried under a maiden name I almost missed, made my hands go cold. Vanessa Reyes vs. State of Florida, petition to amend birth certificate. There was a minor listed. One child. Male. Date of birth. Right in the middle of the Miami trip from 6 years ago that she'd claimed was a work retreat. And under father listed. One word. Unknown. But the petition? It had been filed to remove someone. The original father's name had been redacted in the online version. But the judge's note said, "Court approves removal based on paternity test results submitted. Biological father is not as originally listed. Request to amend granted." And it was signed off by one Linda Reyes, acting as guardian ad litem. I closed the laptop. Stared into the dark. I had 48 hours until I was supposed to say, "I do." And I was starting to wonder who exactly I'd be marrying. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the judge's signature. That phrase, "father removed by petition," kept looping through my mind like some kind of riddle I'd never been meant to solve. By 5 a.m., I was sitting in my car outside Linda's townhouse, watching the porch light flicker against the first gray streaks of morning. I hadn't planned to come here. I hadn't even changed out of yesterday's clothes. But somehow, this felt like the only place that might still offer a truth, even if it wasn't the one I wanted. Linda answered the door in a silk robe, eyes sharp, no surprise on her face. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I got a voicemail," I told her. "And I found the petition. From 2017. She didn't blink. Just stepped aside and said, "Come in." The house was immaculate, as always. Framed photos, lavender candles, and one of those couches you sit on like you're visiting royalty. She motioned to the kitchen. I followed. "I'll only ask once," I said. "Is there a child?" She poured coffee like we were discussing the weather. There was. But not in the way you think. I stared at her. Waited. She sat across from me and folded her hands like she was preparing to deliver a eulogy. "Vanessa got pregnant when she was 23, she said. She was in grad school. The father was unstable. Someone she dated briefly. When he found out, he demanded a paternity test. Insisted the child wasn't his. And it wasn't. But he was still listed on the birth certificate. By mistake. Or panic. It's hard to say." She looked at me then, not defensive, just hollow. So I helped her petition to remove the name. We kept it quiet. The child was adopted. Closed process. No fanfare. My stomach dropped. "You mean, she gave the baby up?" "She was 23, Linda said. Broke. Alone. He was premature. Spent 6 weeks in the NICU. Vanessa couldn't handle it." My throat tightened. "She never told me." "No," Linda said. "She didn't. She wanted that part of her life to stay buried." I stood then. Pushed back from the table like it might burn me. "And now she's marrying me," I said. "Without ever telling me any of this. She didn't think it mattered. She was wrong." Linda said nothing. Just looked at me with that same unreadable calm she wore to every family dinner, the kind of calm that isn't peace, but distance. I left without saying another word. Back in the car, I called Vanessa. No answer. I called again. Nothing. On the third try, she picked up. "Eric?" Her voice was groggy. Like someone who hadn't expected their world to start unraveling before breakfast. "I need to talk to you," I said. "Now." She was quiet for a beat. Then, "Okay." I met her at our apartment. The wedding dress was still hanging in the garment bag near the hallway, untouched. She stood in the doorway in sweatpants and my old hoodie, the one she'd claimed for herself a year into dating, the one I hadn't seen in months. Her face was pale. Her eyes already wet. "I talked to your mom," I said. She nodded. "I figured. You were going to marry me," I said, voice shaking, "and you weren't going to tell me you had a child." She looked down. I was scared. Of me? No. Of losing the life I finally started to believe I deserved. That hit harder than I expected. She sat on the couch. Same couch where we picked our honeymoon destination. Same spot she'd laughed from, barefoot and glowing, when we first signed the lease. I never held him, she said. Not once. They wouldn't let me. He was sick. And when they brought the papers in, I thought it was mercy. That I was giving him a shot at something better. I sat across from her, hands trembling in my lap. His name? I asked. She whispered it. It was a strong name. Simple. One I could have imagined choosing myself. You should have told me, I said. I thought I buried her, Vanessa said. The girl who made that choice. I thought she died in that hospital. But she didn't, I said. She's still here. And she's marrying someone who deserves all of her, not just the parts she thinks are lovable. She didn't cry. Not yet. But something in her cracked open. I didn't think I deserved you, she said. And that was the worst part. Not the lie. Not the omission. But the quiet truth that she had convinced herself love had to be earned through silence. I stood up. Walked to the window. The morning sun was rising, slow and stubborn. You said he was adopted, I said. Closed. She nodded. That's all I know. But deep down, I already knew that wasn't true. Because nobody goes to court with their mother's help, files petitions to scrub names off a birth certificate, and forgets what happened after. There was more. And whatever it wasn't buried deep enough. The morning after our conversation, I found myself staring at the man in the mirror like I didn't quite recognize him. The tux was hanging on the closet door behind me, black, tailored, pressed for a future that suddenly felt borrowed. I was supposed to be tying up bow ties and double-checking the playlist for the reception. Instead, I was standing in front of the bathroom sink with a toothbrush in my mouth and a question ringing in my head. What kind of man marries someone who still has a locked door inside her heart? I didn't call off the wedding that day. Not yet. But I didn't move forward either. I paused. Told everyone we were dealing with a family emergency, which wasn't technically a lie. And in the lull that followed, I started digging. I didn't tell Vanessa at first. I needed space, and she gave it, whether from guilt or self-preservation, I couldn't tell. But for the next 24 hours, I did what I do best, search, organize, connect dots. That night, I made a quiet call to a guy I used to play softball with, works in the city clerk's office down in Miami. Name's Caleb. Good guy, owes me one from a favor years back. I told him I needed help finding sealed adoption filings, specifically from late 2017, involving a minor relinquished by Vanessa Reyes. There was silence on the line. Then he said, "You didn't hear this from me." He called back 2 hours later. "Nothing shows up under Reyes directly," he said, "but there's a sealed file tied to a Jane Doe maternal party, cross-indexed through a hospital record. Coral Grove Medical Center." He gave me a case number. The kind you don't find with a Google search. "You still want it?" he asked. I hesitated. Then said, "Yeah." He emailed me what he could, redacted, incomplete, but enough. The adopting parents were listed as Mitchell and Sarah Bryant. Coral Gables address. High income bracket. No criminal record. From the outside, they looked like the kind of couple you'd want raising a child. But there was a note in the file, a court-approved amendment, made just 2 years later. Parental rights terminated due to abandonment. And another line, handwritten by a caseworker. Child's current location, unknown. No legal guardianship filed. I stared at the screen. Vanessa hadn't just given up her child. He'd been given up twice. And now he was out there, somewhere between a name in a file and a face I couldn't picture, with no legal parents, no traceable record, and no one even looking for him. That night, I confronted her. She was sitting on our bed, barefoot, flipping through a wedding itinerary she clearly wasn't reading. Her eyes were vacant. Like someone watching a slow-motion car crash they couldn't stop. I know about the Bryants, I said. Her body stiffened. And I know about the abandonment ruling. She didn't look at me. Just closed the folder and set it down like it was too heavy. I didn't know they gave him up, she said. You never followed up. I couldn't, she said. I signed away my rights. They told me it was best if I stayed out of it. They said, too many voices would confuse him. Her voice broke on that last part. I sat down across from her. You told yourself you buried that part of your life, I said, but it was never gone. You just turned away. She nodded. Because I didn't think I could survive it if I didn't. I believed her. But belief and forgiveness aren't the same thing. You're going to have to find him, I said. We are. She looked up at me then. Eyes rimmed with red, but clear. You'd help me? She asked. Even after all this? I don't know if I'll marry you, I said. Not yet. But this boy didn't ask for any of this. And if he's lost, then we find him. She cried then. Really cried. Not the silent tears of guilt, but the loud, shaking sobs of someone finally reckoning with a decision they thought would stay hidden in a locked drawer forever. And I sat there. Not as her fiancé. Not even as her future. But as a man who knew what it felt like to be erased. That night, I reached out to an old friend in social work. Vanessa made a formal request to unseal her original file, citing a welfare concern. It would take time. Days, maybe weeks. But it was the first real step. A day later, the voicemail came again. Same blocked number. Same voice. Only this time, the message was different. You're getting close. Be careful who you trust. Especially her. That night, I checked the locks twice. Slept on the couch. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure who exactly I was trying to protect. My heart. Or that boy we still hadn't found. 2 days after the second voicemail, I got an email from Dana, a social worker I'd known since college. We'd worked a case together back in Oakland, and she still owed me a favor. Eric, her message read. That file? I've seen it. The boy was placed with a man named Stephen Mercer. You know him? The name hit me in the chest. Mercer was Linda's old lawyer, Vanessa's mom. I'd seen his photo once on Vanessa's bookshelf, years ago, tucked between beach pictures and old family portraits. That photo was gone now. And I hadn't noticed until that moment. I asked Vanessa. She said she moved it. That's all. I didn't believe her. Dana called later that day. Mercer's not in the system anymore. But I pulled the case. After the boy was abandoned by the Bryants, someone filed for emergency custody, quick, quiet, no follow-up. The official name was redacted, but the legal signature. It matched the ones Linda Reyes used when she was still practicing, right down to the formatting. It wasn't just a legal favor. She used her own bar ID. Faked the paperwork. Pushed it through while the system was still catching its breath from the abandonment filing. And just like that, the boy disappeared from every official channel. Her mother? I asked. Dana's voice was cautious. Looks that way. The case has no follow-up. No transfer. No closure. It just ends. That night, I confronted Vanessa. She swore she didn't know. Said Linda told her it had been handled. That there was no need to stir it back up. I believed her, she whispered. I didn't want to, but I did. I told her that time was up. We were past believing. She showed up at the park the next morning, carrying a manila envelope, one she said she found hidden in her mother's attic. Inside were court records, letters, and one photo that nearly brought me to my knees, a young boy, maybe 5, holding a toy truck in front of a garden I recognized instantly. "My uncle's house," I muttered. She nodded. "I didn't know until I saw it. But, your family helped raise him." "Briefly. Linda placed him there. I'd met him at a barbecue or some holiday get-together. A quiet boy with big eyes and a juice box. I helped him open. A child I hadn't known was part of my story." "Where is he now?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "That house was sold after your uncle passed. And after that, he disappeared." We sat there in stunned silence, staring at the face of a boy the world had quietly misplaced. And then I made a promise. "We find him," I said. She nodded. "Yes. Together." The next morning, I got a voicemail. No warning. Just a threat. "Keep looking and you'll regret it. He's not yours anymore." And suddenly, it wasn't about secrets. It was about saving someone who was still out there, whether he knew it or not. The third voicemail wasn't a warning. It was a line in the sand. "Keep looking and you'll regret it. He's not yours anymore." That's when I knew, this wasn't just a buried secret. Someone had something to lose. And they were getting desperate. Vanessa and I dove into the envelope from her mother's attic. Hidden inside was a utility bill addressed to Stephen Mercer, Linda's old lawyer, tied to a rural cabin near Homestead. Remote, off the grid. We drove down without a plan, just a name and a rising sense of dread. The place looked abandoned, but the porch light was on. Smoke curled from the chimney. Someone was living there. I told Vanessa to wait in the car. Mercer answered the door like he'd been expecting me. "Where is he?" I asked. "Come inside." The cabin was spare, dusty. Legal books. A few worn-out chairs. And on the mantel, a framed photo, the boy from the adoption file, slightly older now. Still holding that toy truck. "He lived here," Mercer said. "Until 7 months ago. You took him." "I saved him," he said. Linda was arranging a quiet adoption, a private placement. There was money involved. I froze. "You're saying she sold him?" "She called it a fresh start. I couldn't let it happen. So I filed a custody claim using her credentials. Got him out. Gave him this place. And then he ran," Mercer said. "Packed a bag and disappeared. I didn't report it, I'm not even his legal guardian. I was trying to keep him out of the system." Vanessa had come in by then. She looked at Mercer with hollow eyes. "You let me think he was gone," she said. "I did what I had to," he replied. That's when we heard it, soft footsteps on the floorboards. A creak. And then a voice. "Mom." We turned. There he was. Older than the photo, but unmistakable. Same eyes. Same grip on that toy truck. "You came," he whispered. Vanessa dropped to her knees. She didn't speak, just reached for him like she'd been holding her breath for 6 years. I couldn't move. Just looked at the boy, and knew. My son. But before we could even breathe, gravel crunched outside. A black SUV rolled up the driveway. Mercer glanced out the window. "They found us," he said. "Who?" I asked. He turned, pale and shaking. "Linda's people." The SUV door opened slowly. 2 men stepped out, suits, dark sunglasses, calm like they'd done this before. One carried a briefcase. The other didn't bother with a coat. Vanessa froze. I pulled the boy behind me. "They're not cops," Mercer said at the window. "They're private." "Private what?" "Linda's fixers." A knock at the door. Calm. Cold. "We're here for the boy," one of them said. Vanessa stepped forward. He's not going anywhere. Ma'am, the voice replied, you don't want to escalate this. Mercer's jaw tightened. There's a back door. Through the kitchen. 30 seconds, maybe. I turned to Vanessa. Take him. She hesitated. Eric. Go. Mercer moved fast, threw together a bag, handed her a flashlight and a jacket for the boy. Vanessa knelt. Stay with me, she whispered. The front door creaked open. One of the men stepped inside. This boy doesn't belong here. I met his eyes. That's where you're wrong. Behind me, the back door, footsteps, then silence. The men paused, waiting for something. Orders, maybe. We know who you are, the second said. You don't want this in court. I stepped closer. Then maybe you shouldn't have left a trail of threats. That landed. We have enough to bury Linda, I said. Court records. Photos. Already in the hands of a lawyer and a journalist. You touch us, it all goes live. A flicker between them. You want to fix this? I added. Too late. It's already out. The taller man sighed, then nodded. No threats. No shouting. Just quiet retreat, the kind that says, we've done worse, but not today. They left, silent, quick. Mercer locked the door. Exhaled. That your plan? I asked. Not quite, he said. But it worked. We didn't chase after them. We let them run. They needed space, to be more than a secret. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. No return address. Just Vanessa's handwriting. His name is Miles now. He wants to meet you again. When you're ready. A photo was inside. Vanessa, Miles, and a rescue dog. Unpolished. Real. I stared at it a long time. Then I picked up the phone. Not to call her. To call a lawyer, to start the process, officially. Not through shadows. Through truth. We didn't get married. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Some stories don't end at the altar. They keep going, on different terms. But Vanessa and I stayed in each other's lives. Quietly. Slowly. And Miles? He's not a secret anymore. He's a kid who knows who he is. Who we are. And what it means to be chosen, not from guilt. Not from rescue. From love. Because sometimes, family isn't about blood or timing. It's about who shows up when the story finally asks. What do you want to carry into the next chapter? And for me? I chose him.